Now I know that Wordle's probably been examined 1,000 times by a million people, but I feel like I have a unique perspective that others don't have, as I've designed 2 word games in the past, and one of them is basically a distant cousin of Wordle. By the way, my name is Fraser. I'm a 25-year-old indie game developer, and on this channel I do tricks, tips, and vlogs about the games that I'm making. I'm currently working on 2 games. Trivia War, a game where you get to battle your friends in a local multiplayer trivia game, and Rated Mutant, a Metroidvania starring Tori, our badass protagonist, fighting mutants in a subterranean laboratory, searching for her kidnapped father using a variety of weapons and skills. You can wishlist Rated Mutant on Steam and check out a video series on me creating Trivia War. Links in the description below. So most word games fall into 2 categories. Spell as many words as you can within some limitation, or spell a very specific set of words in some limitation. My first word game on Scramble Me was the former. You were given 12 letters. Each letter has a point value, and you could spell as many words as you possibly can within a certain time frame. It fell somewhere between Scrabble and Boggle. Games like this were pretty popular at the time, and while I never saw insane success, I saw thousands of downloads at a time when 10,000 downloads for a free game was very impressive. Now, my second game, Spell Me, was closer to that other type of word game I described. You were given a specific 5-letter word. I knocked out a few letters and kept some as basically hints. Gave you a letter bank, including the missing letters that I took away. And the idea is that you were supposed to figure out the word and fill back in the letters. It even has a game mode in which there are no letters given. You just have to spell a word given the letters in your bank. Now, if any of that sounded familiar, it's because Wordle behaves kind of similarly. There is a very specific 5-letter word, and your letter bank is basically the English alphabet. Now, let's examine the similarities between these 3 games. They're all easy to pick up, they're familiar yet difficult, and they're intended for relatively short bursts, as most word games are, or more so most casual games. The difference between my 2 word games and Wordle are mostly that I designed mine to be hyper casual, and I didn't really do a great job of that. Hyper-casual games are intended to be for all generations, somewhat addicting to keep you coming back. Now, this is where Wordle broke the mold. 1 word a day, that's all you get. No ads, no purchases, no way to play another Wordle. It's extremely simple. And the second thing the developer did perfectly was feedback. And I mean that in more ways than one. The first of these being player feedback. Letters in the correct place are green, letters that are in the word but not in the correct place are yellow, and if the letter isn't in the word at all, then it is gray. Once a letter is tapped, it is removed from the keyboard. Immediately, what may have been a very daunting game becomes easier, becomes simpler. It's almost encouraging to have things removed, to be told that you're close. This is the mistake I made in my game Spell Me. In the beginning, I originally had it too that you had to spell a very specific word, and not just a word that happens to fit. And that's because I had no player feedback, and it was a frustrating experience. So while my word game has a word in mind, it'll actually accept anything that fits that pattern. So even if the game wanted alone, it would take a tone. With Wordle, you know where you stand. You know how close you are, and you know where you're going. And not to mention, you only have to do this once. In every game mode that I had, you had to do this multiple times. There were multiple rounds of words in every single game mode. I even had a mode that had a daily, similar to Wordle, that everyone gets to play, but it was 25 words. That was a big time commitment for a lot of people, and honestly, it didn't really have the experience that I wanted to present. Imagine if you had to do 25 Wordles a day. It'd be pretty exhausting. I didn't tell users any indicator of if they were close. They couldn't even remove letters once they used them. This was clearly frustrating and anger-inducing, and I simply couldn't see it. The fact that you can see previous attempts is just another example of player feedback. You can grow upon this. Use each attempt's letter to build upon the foundation of the previous attempt. It's pretty elegant when you think about it. I had a game mode that had attempts in the form of hearts. But honestly, this is just fear-inducing because I also was timing the players. So they had double the pressure and no reassurances. Those previous attempts Wordle shows are calming. Your brain wants to find that pattern. Now the other form of feedback. What I mean by that is that you have to be receptive of what your audience wants and what they're telling you. What they're doing and how they're playing. And while he wasn't the one to come up with the original idea of sharing the blocks on social media, the fact that he picked up on it and then integrated that is brilliant. Whether or not he was aware at the time, Those blocks are easily the most alluring part of Wordle. The first time you saw them, you were probably confused. What the F are those? What is Wordle? And that curiosity piqued your interest and you looked into it. That was a spark. That spark drove thousands of people to Google Wordle or ask their friends what it is, causing true virality and becoming a social phenomenon. Everyone doing the same puzzle, comparing to one another, becoming something to discuss with your partner at dinner or your friends on the train. That is the beauty and simplicity of Wordle and why it captured so many of us. I've created the ability to share in the previous games that I've made. Hell, I've even shown results screens that tell you how many attempts you had at certain words. But those blocks are so much more alluring than some random metric that I happen to make up. Words per minute, time spent, etc. Words plus attempts plus Wordle. No other context worked as the surprise ad that no one saw coming. Spell Me came out in 2017, and Wordle 2021 is everything that it should have been. Seeing it now is so clear and sharp in my mind, and in many ways I kick myself for not being able to produce that 7-figure payout. No, I kid. Wordle is a very special game, and Josh Wardle deserves every bit of success that he has. And this concludes my analysis of why Wordle is so special from the perspective of an indie word game developer. So let me know in the comments, why do you think Wordle is so special? What's your favorite word game and how does it compare? Let me know if you guys like this in-depth analysis and if I should be making more of this kind of video. The idea came to me somewhat sporadically, so we'll see how it does in the end. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell so that you get notice on when my next video comes out. Once again, my name is Fraser, and I'll see you in the next one.